Welcome to World History TV. We're set to embark on an incredible journey through time. From ancient civilizations to modern-day events, we explore stories that have shaped our world. Our rich tapestry of human experience offers countless lessons and fascinating insights. Whether you're a history buff or simply curious about the past, you've come to the right place. Grab your passport to the past. We're delving into defining moments of our history. Together, we'll uncover the events and personalities that made today possible. Join us as we discover the moments that define us on World History TV. Episode 8, From Colony to Nation, The Road to Federation. Welcome back to our history series. In today's episode, we explore the road to federation. After decades of British colonial rule, the Australian colonies began to push for self-governance. This drive for independence would ultimately lead to the creation of the Commonwealth of Australia in 1901, marking the birth of a united nation. Segment 1, Colonial Australia, a divided land. By the mid-19th century, Australia was not yet a nation but a series of 6 separate British colonies: New South Wales, Victoria, Queensland, South Australia, Western Australia, and Tasmania. Each of these colonies was governed independently, with its own laws, trade practices, and even defense systems. While they shared the same continent, the colonies were politically and economically divided, with few mechanisms for cooperation or collaboration. Despite these divisions, a sense of Australian identity was beginning to emerge. People living in the colonies began to realize that to thrive, they would need to work together more closely, especially in terms of governance, defense, and trade. Segment 2, Economic and Social Pressures for Unity. As Australia's population grew, so did its economy, but the lack of cooperation between the colonies became increasingly evident. Trade between the colonies was hindered by tariffs, which made goods more expensive and slowed economic growth. This was particularly problematic for farmers and manufacturers, who struggled with high costs. Additionally, the growing labor movement in the colonies, alongside demands for social and economic reforms, highlighted the need for a unified system to protect workers' rights and improve living standards. The colonies also realized that they could better address issues such as defense and infrastructure if they united under a common system of governance. Segment 3, The Push for Self-Governance. Although Australia was still under British colonial rule, the colonies had already started to gain self-governing powers by the 1850s and 1860s. However, full independence from Britain remained far off. By the 1890s, many of the colonies had grown discontent with their continued dependence on Britain and the lack of coordination between the separate colonies. A sense of nationalism began to grow, and the idea of forming a federal system, a united nation, was discussed in a series of constitutional conventions. These conventions were attended by politicians and key figures from each colony, all debating how a federal system might work, one that would allow for self-rule while maintaining the unique identities and powers of individual states. The drive for self-governance was also motivated by the desire for greater control over local matters, including trade, immigration, and defense, without the constant oversight of the British government. Segment 4, The Role of Key Figures. Key figures like Sir Henry Parkes, Edmund Barton, and Alfred Deakin played critical roles in pushing for federation. Parkes, known as the Father of Federation, was instrumental in organizing the first national conference in 1889. He believed that a united Australia would be stronger, more prosperous, and better able to defend itself. Barton and Deakin, both from Victoria, were also key advocates. Barton, who would go on to become the first Prime Minister of Australia, worked tirelessly to bring the colonies together, convinced that a federal system could benefit all of them. These leaders championed the cause of federation, building a coalition of politicians, business leaders, and the general public to ensure the movement gained momentum. Segment 5, the 1899 referendum and the birth of the Commonwealth. In 1899, after years of discussion and drafting a constitution, the British government finally allowed the Australian colonies to vote on the idea of federation. A national referendum was held, and the proposed constitution was overwhelmingly supported by the colonies. On January 1, 1901, the Commonwealth of Australia was officially born. With the passing of the Constitution Act, Australia became a unified nation, with a federal government responsible for defence, trade, and foreign relations. Edmund Barton became Australia's first Prime Minister, and the new system of government began to take shape. Although Australia remained part of the British Empire, this was a significant step toward full independence. The Commonwealth had full control over many aspects of domestic governance, while the British monarch still remained the formal head of state.